Welcome, my dear friends. It's great to see you. In case we haven't met before, I'm Stephen Clements, a writer, a gamer, and an appreciator of big brain activities in general. On this channel, I perform dramatic story readings, I provide role-playing game and movie reviews, and I get to interview interesting people. And I also show off my corgis and my cat. I mean, they're really stinking cute. I mean, how would you not want to see them? Since February is Black History Month, which, now that I think about it, makes absolutely no sense because Martin Luther King Day is in January, Juneteenth is in June, and February is the deepest part of winter where white stuff literally falls out of the sky and don't know black people want to be going out. You know what? Never mind. February is Black History Month, and I'm going to take that as an excuse to honor my dear friend Joseph Tate by reading Legendary, a short story of his that appeared in my collection, Memphis Dirty, Tales from the Dirty South. And this short story is in fact true. All this shit we're about to vicariously live through, vicariously lived all over him. And so Joe, here's to you and your lady love having just the best of years ahead of you. And my dear friends, if you have delicate sensibilities, why are you here? But also, you might want to sit this one out because it's about to get real Memphis in here. Legendary by Joseph Tate. No shit, there I was. If you've never looked straight down the barrel of a shotgun, picking a dude who wants to take everything you got isn't the way to make it happen. As a matter of fact, it can ruin your life. But me? Nah, not for me. The rest of that legendary night did that for me. It all started with a 7-day pass from Camp Pendleton, California. See, back then, I was in the Marines, and I was probably one of the shittiest Marines you ever seen. But this story isn't about me. It's about the horrific things that happened to me in Memphis on that 7-day pass that went on for 9 days. It was all going according to plan. I was driving my beat-up, ratty old Volkswagen from California to visit my sister in Memphis, where I'd grown up for several years. After Memphis, I was headed up to Wisconsin to visit some more family and friends, and then over to Virginia to visit friends at my previous duty station. Yeah, all that on a 7-day pass. Driving my piece of shit car. And getting back to California by Sunday. What could go wrong with a plan like that? Don't mind that right now because that's another story. So I showed up in Memphis, but not the nice part of town, and there is one. I'd gone to visit my sister, who works for the IRS and is batshit crazy. I rolled up to her house in the hood, of which there's a baker's dozen, but this particular hood was south of Orange Mound. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Orange Mound or know anything about it, but that's as far south in Memphis the white people want to go. Basically, the moment you go south of Southern Avenue, that's when you stop seeing white people. There are people down there who almost never see white people in person, just on TV. Orange Mound was the first black subdivision made by blacks in the country, and it showed. In 1994, Orange Mound was rated by crime statistics to be the most violent neighborhood of Memphis, which is habitually one of the most dangerous places in the country. So let that paint the picture in your mind of where this story's going. So I knocked on the door to my sister's shotgun shack, but didn't have to wait long. She immediately opened the door, and I smiled at her, opening my arms up for a big brother-sister hug. "Oh, hey, Joseph, what are you doing here?" she said as she used the screen door to brush past my welcoming embrace. "I'm here to see my sister, dummy," I joked at her. God, she was going to blow me off again, I could tell. She stopped clipping in an earring to look confused at me. She slowly said, "Oh, Joseph, I thought you were coming in tomorrow. I got a date with my girls tonight." "I'm sorry." I stood there quietly, but I gave up on the hug invitation. "Bitch. I was just leaving," she said, her painted up lips flapping. "You want to hang out with Sylvester? He's here and ain't got nothing to do." "Who the hell is that?" "Oh, he's my boyfriend," she smiled. "You mean that jobless good-for-nothing you've been banging?" I asked. She pawed at me, then ducked her head back into the house. "Sly! I'm gonna go. My brother Joe's in town. Why don't you show him around?" "Yup," was the muffled answer from inside the house. "All right, y'all have fun," my sister said, as she walked to her car, leaving me with some jackwagon I'd never met. I sighed. I drove 1,800 miles for this? At least I had some ass waiting for me in Virginia. And some that was worth crawling to the moon for. Resigned, I opened the door to meet my host for the evening. Sitting on the couch was a scrawny black dude, but he didn't look any more shady than anybody else in this town. For instance, he only had one gold tooth. I know how you spell tooth and I know how he pronounced it. And he dressed in early 90s casual you might see anyplace else. A pair of jeans, a white undershirt with an unbuttoned plaid dress shirt over it, and a backward-turned ball cap. He didn't look up from an episode of Fresh Prince when I came in, and the screen door slammed behind me. I walked up to the edge of the couch in the slightly mildewed living room. Sly didn't look up. I waited. It was already 9 at night, and Sly was apparently all right with me waiting longer, so I caved and broke the ice. "Hey, Sly, what's going on?" Not looking up, he answered back plainly, "Oh, nothing much. What's up with you?" "I just drove in from Camp Pendleton, California to see my sister, and she dumped me on you." "That's kind of cold." "Yeah, she raggedy." "You got that right." "So what's there to do in this town?" Sly thought for a minute, still watching Carlton, trying to prove he was right in vain. "Well, I need to do some laundry. You got a car?" "Yeah, but Good, because my license got suspended. Let me get my dirty, and I'll tell you where the laundromat at." Damn it, I ain't got any place else to stay or people to see in town, so I guess my Friday night will be taking my sister's deadbeat boyfriend to do his laundry. Sly came out of the bedroom with a duffel bag of laundry and stopped to scratch his bristly chin. "You got any you need doing?" he asked. "I guess, but I don't have any money on me." "That's okay. I know a place we can get some roll of quarters this time of night." So we rolled around the hood in my ghetto sled and stopped in to see an old man about some quarters. 2 rolls of quarters in hand, all thanks to my wallet, we sputtered to a stop in front of the stooped laundromat, its dull fluorescent lights shining out onto the busted, cracked asphalt parking lot. We could see through the full-length windows that we would be the only people in there. But hey, not everybody knows how to rock the night like we did. Since we had the place to ourselves, we walked in like champs and claimed the first loaders we found. Break open the first roll of quarters, we pushed the lever and listened to the hiss of beat-up washers get to work. I walked around the place to see if there were any posters on the wall saying something, anything was going on tonight so I could ditch Sly and do some partying. Sly slid down into one of those hard plastic chairs bolted to the ground, apparently feeling no compulsion to entertain his charge for the evening. I found no community board or crappy poster saying, "Come see my shitty band, BYOB." So I guessed that staring at the washers swirl was going to be the best thing to happen to me tonight. Well, at least I'd be able to get a move on earlier than planned for Wisconsin, where I had more than one flaky nutbag waiting for me. Sly sat for a bit, then took off to walk a few blocks to get something cold and frosty while we waited. Towards the end of the wash cycle, I was headed over to a scuffed-up chair when the door swung open, and my night got interesting. In through the door came 2 jacked-up crackheads wearing all kinds of mismatched sweaters and vests all wrong. They had one arm in a sleeve here, but got distracted before they put the other sleeve on, so they just put on another garish, ripped-up something on over the off arm to make up for it. Only crackheads dress like that, because no other drug makes people think dressing like that looks good. And their faces were all screwed up, like their cheek and eyebrow muscles had a seizure and forgot to go back to normal. How could this not go someplace awesome? "Hey!" The one with the toboggan hollered. Never mind it was warm outside, but I guess his hair was cold. At no one in particular. His eyes were bloodshot. He stank like he hadn't washed in a week. He was missing teeth, and he turned to look at me. I looked straight back, unimpressed. I dealt with crackheads before. Just make some loud noises and say you see the cops, and they should run off. If you feel like being charitable, just give him the quarter he asked for. "Give me all your money," he slurred. I noticed the 2 were shaking, whether from withdrawal or adrenaline, I couldn't tell. "Plumb out," was all I said. That seemed to throw him. He turned to his partner and flashed a, "Now what?" look. The crackheads turned to face me. "I said give me your money, asshole," ordered the talkative one. His friend started bobbing on the balls of his feet for no reason. "Listen, just go on and get. I put my last quarters in the machine," I countered. Just then the quiet one pulled out from under his layers of jackets a single-barreled shotgun and pointed it straight at my face. Well, shit. I held my hands up and started talking. I'd had guns pointed and fired at me before, but this was point blank and over some damn quarters. It'd be more trouble than it was worth to not just hand it over. All right, I got you. This is all I got," I said, fishing out the opened and sealed rolls of coins out of my pockets. I held them out to Chatty McCrackhead, then held up my hands so they didn't freak out any more than they already were. Chatty giggled like a schoolgirl when he counted the quarters, and his partner leered in a drooling smile when he saw it. After Chatty crammed them in one of his many pockets, his face turned angry. "Give me everything you got!" "I just gave you all my money!" "Take your clothes off!" Alright, I was done with this bullshit. I sat down in one of those hard-as-rocks chairs and kicked back, telling them, "Now, boys, you best get to getting. I'm through with you!" Chatty thought for a moment. The moment was in no hurry to leave, though, so we stood at an impasse. "Aight," Chatty concluded. "Give me your clothes you was washing." "You want my wet clothes?" "I said give it," Chatty screamed, while shotgun pointed the barrel closer to my face. I just shook my head and headed over to the washing machines. Shotgun followed me as I went, watching me like a hawk as I stopped the rinse cycle. The fact that I thought this was the dumbest thing I had ever been held up for didn't stop me from opening the washer and grabbing my soaking, wet, dirty clothes. I started to put the sopping wet clothes into Sly's duffel bag when Chatty shouted, "Don't do that! Hand them over!" Whatever. I gave him handful after handful of wet laundry, the water splashing down onto the dirty tiled floor as I did so. When the deed was done, Chatty practically glowed with pride. Without a further word, the two backed out of the laundromat, keeping the shotgun up to warn me against trying anything. I didn't even have my hands up anymore. I was disgusted by the shittiness of the stick-up that just went down. See, both crack and cocaine come from the same basic drug, coca leaves. White people with money go for cocaine, but black people go for crack. And I think you can chalk up why black people got it so much worse than white people to the effects of the two drugs. Cocaine makes you feel invincible and like you can conquer the world. So investment bankers, big business guys, and white artists and musicians go balls to the wall to make something big happen. Crack makes you do stupid shit like what just happened and prove why we can't have nice things in the hood. So there I was, wet and broke, from handing everything I had on me to a couple of crackheads at a ghetto laundromat. I was ready to call it a night, and then Sly walked back in with a freshly opened brew, not a care in the world. "You ready to go, Sly?" I asked. "Go where?" "Go home. I'm done for the night." Sly reacted in shock. "What do you mean, go home? It's only 10 o'clock. My annoyance becoming evident, I said, "Sly, I just got held up for your laundry and my quarters. That's a tough act to follow." "Damn, Joseph." He paused, thinking. "Don't worry, man. We'll make it happen." "Sure," I said in resignation, and snatched his beer away from him, chugging it down. I was pissed off and wanted something to distract me. So I drove Sly over to his parents' supermarket so he could get the key to the house. What parents lock their grown son out of the house? Smart ones. You know, I apologize. This wasn't really a grocery store. This was a front. It was a false facade, a fake store used to sell drugs in the open. How did I know this was a front? Because the small store only had wilted produce, antique cans of expired and bloated stuff on the shelves, dust on the counters, no grocery carts, and it was open 24 hours a day. Does that sound like a place people go looking for cuts of meat? Hell no. I just stood by the counter while Sly went to find his parents in the back of the store, and I didn't see another soul come in. I heard some distant shouting from inside the store, but hey, it wasn't coming my way, and it didn't have a shotgun, so I didn't give a fuck. About 10 minutes later, my sister's boyfriend came back my way, looking perturbed, but ready to go. Burning my gas again, we made it to his house. It was a typical low-rent affair with peeling paint and bars on the windows. The first thing that jumped out at me when we went inside was the acrid haze. The second was the sight of an incredible amount of Tupperware stacked all over the living room. I'm serious. There were stacks and stacks of Pyrex rising 5 feet high. Why would you need that many plastic containers? Because you were pushing weed and wanted to contain the smell. That's why. Well, somebody was letting the ganja out of the bag big time because the place reeked of high times. Sly walked in as I hesitated at the door, but then he motioned for me to follow him into the house, saying, "Come on, soldier. I got some friends I want you to meet." First off, I was a Marine, not a soldier, but I let that slide. Second off, I didn't see any friends. Marines get drug tested all the time, and I was pretty sure what kind of friends Sly kept. Reluctantly, I followed. When I passed from the paraphernalia-riddled living room to the den, I saw what friend Sly was talking about. Seated on the worn carpet were about a dozen people, just sitting around, smoking weed. Well, then I realized the problem. Not one of them could be over 15 years old. I paused in the doorway, frozen by the scene, until Sly bumped me, asking me if I wanted in. After seeing the haze of smoke they were pumping out and the number of felonies sitting in front of me, I knew this was a bad place for me to be. I'd been in trouble with the law enough on my own. I did not need this much help getting into more. Before Sly could introduce me around to everyone, I pulled him aside and told him I just wanted a drink to unwind. He made me wait long enough for him to get 4 big tokes in, but in a random act of consideration, he said he knew just the place to get down. No, I didn't sigh in exasperation out of knowing exactly what kind of classy joint Sly was going to take me to, because at this point, I didn't care. I should have! Sly took me to a bar in downtown Memphis, but I ain't talking about those clean, friendly, unlikely to get raided by the cops bars on Beale Street where all the respectable people get drunk in public. Oh no! We went to a rundown shotgun joint, that's joint or place to you white people, about 3 blocks north of the nice part of downtown. I've been some dark and dirty places, but in Memphis, there's a kind of black in the night you just can't find anywhere else. Sly walked me through that darkness to get to the door of the place, because it was so broke down that there weren't any lights on the outside to let you know it was open. Once I got inside, I found out why. The first thing I saw was 2 dudes at a table, right in front of the door, mind you, counting out crack rocks. Why? I don't know. Maybe they were trying to figure out how many to take now and save for later. But I did see a bar with a refrigerator full of beer behind it, so it wasn't my problem. I ordered the first of many beers and finally started to relax for the night. I mostly talked to Sly because I don't really like people, and I really didn't want to get caught up in a tough man contest with one of these hood rats when they found out I was a Marine. But you know, after 3 beers, Sly got to be not such an intolerable shitbag. So the night was picking up. We got to smoking and joking about the crackheads that robbed us of our dirty clothes earlier, and the time started to fly. We were still bullshitting when I happened to glance up and see the clock on the wall turn into midnight. I wouldn't have thought anything of it, but at that moment, the bartender grabbed this big bill from behind the counter and rang that shit like an epileptic possessed. Everything got quiet as 2 guys nearest the front and back doors moved over and locked those things up. Another man went over to the jukebox, slid a quarter in, and put on an old Bill Withers track. That's when my night, maybe even my life, went to shit. The 20 or so lowlifes in the bar started hollering in unison and standing up, which was weird. But then the nasty hoes that were there started taking off all their clothes and grinding on everybody within grinding distance. I'm talking C-section scars, stab scars, bullet scars, needle tracks on the arms and the toes, wigs coming off, false teeth coming out, you name it. If it turned your stomach, these hoes had it. Struggling to keep my beer down, I couldn't believe what Sly said to me next. "Hey man, why don't you get you some of that? I told you I had something for you," he said with a greasy grin. "Help myself to what?" I answered, shock in my voice. "Check it, Joe. This is the thing all the pimps do every week. Let everybody get a taste of the goods. You know what I'm saying?" I was seriously about to throw up. I was at a pimp swap meet. I had before me a veritable buffet of slutty female ass. But I ain't talking no all-you-can-eat champagne and lobster. I'm talking a hogs, knuckles, and chitlins buffet. I had to leave. I had to get out of here. The smell of rotten, stanky pussy, the greasy bastard essence in the air, the beer that suddenly wasn't sitting too well in my gut. It all added up to the last straw in one miserable fucking night. I remember trying to leave, but the doors were locked and weren't nobody getting out. All I could do was sit there and watch in disgust and terror as the ghetto nastiness unfolded and Sly snuck in to get his. I had to find some way out of the reach of the skanks when they made their rounds near me, trying desperately to avoid their STD-laden, cracked fingernails. Something in my face must have let them hoes know that I wasn't down for the ground brown. I remember telling the dude at the door to open it or I'm taking it off the frame. I was free at last. You can't unlive that kind of night. You can't unsee what I seen. Now ain't that some shit? Joe, I'm glad you lived through that night and lived to tell us about it, because I loved reading it and I would never want to have experienced that for myself. Now, my dear friends, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what happened to Joe. Has something like that ever happened to you? God forbid. If it did, how did you survive? Do you want to send condolences to Joe? I mean, he'll take them. Believe me, he needs all the help he can get. I mean, he's doing all right now, but we all need help. So please write your thoughts and well wishes in the comments below. We'll check those out. We'll be sure to pass along happy thoughts to Joe Tate. And if you enjoyed this sordid tale, I too enjoy it when people like and subscribe. And I love it when they buy their own copy of Memphis Dirty. Joe is legally entitled to a cut of the proceeds from this thing. And what better way to celebrate Black History Month than to make Joe Tate rich, bitch? Seriously, if y'all make it rain on me, it's at least going to drizzle on my friend Joe. And believe you me, I stick to my deals. So let's celebrate Black History Month right. Flood Amazon with orders. All the details in the description below. I thank you for your time and that you chose to spend it with me and Joseph Tate's legendary night. As we dear friends part for now, I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you, Pam. Pam.